discussion on ugly truth of advertising, skip ad, and the shift in the marketing mix. I'm Manmeet from IMEI, and I will be your host for today. Taking this opportunity, I would like to give you a quick introduction about IMEI and a partnering firm, Bubble AI. IMEI is Internet and Mobile Association of India. It's a not-for-profit industry body representing the complete gamut of digital services industry in India. We have over 330 Indian and multinational corporations as members from various segments for our sector-specific committees like digital transformation, digital advertising, edutech, fintech, gaming, etc. In case you need additional information on how you can be a part of IMI and its initiatives, you can visit our website www.imi.in. Bobble AI is the world's first conversation media platform is enriching everyday conversations with expressive and personalized content, including stickers, GIFs, emojis, deep localization with over 100 languages, AI-based contextual recommendations, speech-to-text, and much more. Bobble AI is transforming conversations of over 50 million users and counting. To learn more about Bobble AI, please visit www.bobble.ai. I would like to thank Bobble AI for partnering with us for this virtual discussion. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to Ms. Anika Tanwar, who will be moderating today's discussion. Ms. Anika Tanwar is the Vice President of Business for Bobble AI. In her current role, she is responsible for top-line business growth, sales acceleration strategy, channel expansion, business operations, and alongside, she's driving a team of talented individuals towards carving the $0 billion marketplace. Joining us today, we have a distinguished set of leaders. First up, we have Abhishek Asthana, founder, Ginger Monkey LLP. Arvind, Director, Marketing, Digital and Communications, McDonald's India. Premjit Sori, Chief Strategy Officer, Wavemaker. Sagar Bokeh, Head Customer and Shopping Marketing, Food and Beverages, Tata Consumer Products. And Ms. Vanita Keswani, CEO, Madison Media Sigma. I would now request Ms. Anika to take this forward.
Thanks a lot, Manvi. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be doing this in the first place. I am really happy, ecstatic, in fact, to be joined by a very esteemed panel that we have here, welcoming on board Vanita, Sagar, Arvind, Abhishek. Hi, everyone. Hi, Premjit, hi. I think just to, kind of set the context on what is it that we are here to really talk about, I'm sure you're already very excited and curious. Of course, looking at the gaping hole that we have, the ugly truth of marketing, which is skip ads, we'll be talking about that at length, that why is it the way it is? And while that has been happening, what are the shifts over a period of time that has happened? Especially during the pandemic, a lot of things changed. We were relooking, like, of course, I'll have the experts talk about it at length, but we were looking at problems with new lenses, right? So there are, of course, new formats and conversations that have emerged as an impactful channel of the marketing mix. I'll have people talking about it at more length. But with this, I think I open the floor for our panel discussion, starting with the very first thing, that why do people, us consumers and like marketers as well, what are their understanding and viewpoints on why do people in the first go skip ads? With this, I think I would want to come to you, Arvind, first for your thoughts and point of view as a marketer, of course, and as a consumer. Why do you think is this a phenomena?
Well, from a consumer perspective, I would say advertising has always been something that comes between two programs or in an ad break, right? So in that sense, advertising traditionally has been intrusive, right? If we look at it, especially from a digital lens, traditional advertising has been intrusive. Now, while we wear the hat of marketeers and we make advertising enjoyable, relevant, and engage with consumers more and more over the time, but intrinsically advertising is intrusive. So I think that's at simplest, I would say that's always been there. The power of digital has completely shifted, the whole equilibrium from sellers to consumers, if you will. What that meant is now then everything is in consumers' hands. What she wants to consume, what and not, right? And classic cases, skippable ads, right? So now the consumer has a choice not to really go through the ad and watch whatever entertainment or content she is or he is consuming online. So the power has shifted, right? While ads has always been intrusive from a consumer perspective, and ads have been evolving, in their way to kind of engage more and more with consumers. But now this digital technology means that the marketers have to think now out of the box, right? While making content more compelling, more engaging, more relevant always remains shorter form of ads. Make sure you have something compelling in the first few seconds and all of that rules of the thumb. We have to now think beyond content, right? And look at ways and means and look at digital as an opportunity, I would say, to be a part of the conversation through new tools and techniques, rather than just rely on different forms of storytelling.
Sure. Arvind, I think taking that point as a highlight, that ads by its very nature are crafted, they are intrusive, whether we like it or not. And that's
I hate saying it, but that's the truth.
The ugly truth. So coming over to you, Vanita, for your thoughts on this.
Okay, thanks everyone. Lovely to be here. So, the first way when Arvind was just saying, and like we just repeated, it's intrusive. The first thought that comes to my mind is you will skip when you're allowed to skip. So the fact is it is allowed, especially on digital as a medium, on YouTube, etc. There is a skip button. So the first reason I think starts with that you have the option. If you don't have an option with non-skippable ads, you cannot, right? First step, I think the reasons, if you're asking me, is that that's available. Secondly, I would say that, of course, relevance. Relevance is very important. So if I'm not in the market, I'm not wanting to see something, I really skip it. Like, it doesn't interest me. So that usually happens because you're not the target audience, or etc. The next point I thought was that, the mode in which you're consuming media. And I think that is a very interesting concept, because lean back media, typically more TV and now also OTT, you're still used to seeing advertising. So, in television, even though you have an option, I think a lot of us don't skip ads in a lot of places. So because you're used to it and you like it and you enjoy advertising in India, especially, I think a lot of us enjoy. I personally quite love to see some advertising once in a while. So when I say lean back, there is one thing. So, at this time, ads are an intrusion unless highly relevant. And on the move means that, it's true function of the environment I'm moving in. So that's the third point. Fourth point is, on being on demand versus linear. So if it's on demand, again, it lends itself more to skipping. That's another point. And last but not the least, skipping is directly and inversely related to the quality. Like, what are you really talking, and how creative and how innovative and how relevant and all of that. So if I really would like to sum up what I'd like to say, I'd say that instead of looking, why does it happen? Why does skipping happen? Can we reverse the question and say, when does it not happen? And then you get your answers. Because as a consumer, when do you like to not skip? So the answers come automatically to you. So when you like to not skip is obviously in a short span of time, the content has to pull me in. So this can only come when the consumer understanding is really, really deeply driven by insights. So I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Very interesting, Vanita. I think you flipped the question for us to actually understand that what are the scenarios when someone would not skip the ad. And I think we'll delve further into it as we look at the other formats where probably things are working right and how it's helping. Over to you, Sagar, for your thoughts and takes on this.
I think Arvind and Vanita really covered about why consumers really like to skip the ad. And I would actually want to build on what Vanita said as to what will make consumer not skip the ad. I think the first premise for advertising is, like Arvind said, advertising comes between two programs. That means it is actually interrupting the enjoyment that the consumer is really looking for. So I think one way you can really make ads non-skippable is basically how can you flow with the content. I think that is one very, very important. Second, very typical thing about advertisement that you would see, we have something called a frequency, right? You get this, so the basic principle of advertising is based on Gobel's principle. What is Gobel's principle? Gobel's principle is saying the same thing again and again, even if it's a lie, people will believe it's true, right? And advertisement is built, I wouldn't say that we tell lie. Being a marketer, I would definitely say that we do not say lie, but again, the principle is the same, saying the same thing again and again, right? Now, when you are, so what are the things that you frequently like to watch? I think, say for example, your favorite piece of music you would always want to listen, right? Very often, or your favorite piece of, say, a series you would want to watch, right? So how can you make advertisement in a way which makes it watchable more frequently? I think that's the second. Third thing about advertisement is that, see, as humans, we are very emotional, so anything which appeals to our heart is something that we want to watch. So how you talk more to heart than you talk to mind? I think if you do all these three things, right, even one of these three things in a better manner, I think our ability to draw attention and make sure that people don't skip in many ways we'll be able to achieve.
Absolutely. I think what you said, Sagar, there, the likability, the relatability, and the emotion that you're able to connect with the hearts by the means of media that you're using becomes very important to not have someone skip the ad, like Vanita said. And I think I also want to highlight what three of you together put together, very important point, that ads are designed in a way that it's, interrupting an ongoing experience probably. So I think brand marketers, it's time that they're already thinking, is there a way to not, remove a user from an existing experience, and probably in the experience, the horizon that they have, how do you build further? With that, I think I'll come to Premjeet for your thoughts on this. Why do consumers skip ads?
Yeah, I think it's all about consumer attention, right? And in the past, right, it was very easy to get consumer attention because in the era of scarce media, the consumer was a captive, right? They had nothing else to do. Even I would say, why are we worrying about digital skip ads? Because the day the remote happened, skipping ads happened, right? And even before the remote happened, it's a larger concept of ad avoidance, right? I might be looking at the ad, but I may not be really understanding, or I'd be ignoring it, right? Typical cold shoulder, blind spot, whatever you call it. So it's always been there. It's always been a challenge for advertisers. And what in those days of limited media, I think what the ad gave, it used to give entertainment in exchange for attention, right? And somewhere, since there was limited entertainment around, you remember the programs on Doordarshan and all, in those times, the ads were entertaining. In fact, I remember spontaneously, it's coming to me, there used to be, when we were kids, there was a program called Tasveer Ka Dusra Rukh, in which the whole line was that I watch ads. And then they ask, okay, do you see the programs also? So they say, oh, the part which comes in between ads. So I don't know which one is in between, whether ads are in between or the programs are in between. But I'm saying we were used to a captive consumer. All of us have experienced when we would have gone in a bus, right, in rural India probably, or in a train, and there, those typical sellers who come to sell a dabbi or a keychain or something, and you're a captive audience there, you can't move, right? But those were, as Arvind said, those are the days when it was okay. But now there are so many options, and technologically and otherwise, so many ways to move out of that bus so that you don't have to sit and listen to it. So then consumer attention becomes a privilege, right? It's a privilege to get those few seconds from the consumer. And that is really about understanding the need state of the consumer, right? And a lot of us tend to mistake this need. Even though we are consumers, we forget when we are working actually, is that this need state is not a static thing. It's a very volatile thing, right? The need states can change in minutes. It's not only about what product category I need, what stage of life cycle I'm in, who's in the environment around me, to what is my mood right now. There's so many things which impact that need state, right? And therefore, till we understand, and therefore that need state, I want to leave a point behind that need state is perishable, right? And if within seconds, you do not capitalize on that need state that you get, the eyeball that you get, right? Like, for example, we know on digital medium that is expected to be somewhere around, measured to be around 2 to 3 seconds. And in 2 to 3 seconds, if you do not catch attention, if you do not make a meaningful conversation, then it's just natural that the consumer will go away. So I think that's natural. The consumer, as everybody says, is there for the content. They are not there for the ad. If they wanted to just see ad, they would go and read Yellow Pages, but they don't do that, right? So it's for us to figure out what is the need state, and that exhibits itself in how we target, when we target. That's the moment part of it, relevance part of it. all of that becomes relevant. So I think we all need to remember is that consumer attention is what is primary. It's a privilege, but it is perishable. And if we keep that in mind, I think we'll be able to overcome this. It's not that we want to force ads on consumers. We don't want to make them captive, but we really want them to appreciate what we are trying to tell them so that they can say, I am loving it. Arvind, that's to you.
Hey.
Absolutely. I think with you, Premjeet, on that, the consumer being captive, or used to be at least, and the fact that today, on an average, a user has access to literally 5 devices. If I count 2 smartphones, 1 iPad, 1 tablet, 1 desktop, that's a whole lot of devices, and my attention spread across those devices. We're looking at that literally mini, 2 to 3 seconds of time. And that's literally, I think, a very important insight for us, that if content formats that can, literally get that bell ringing in the minds of consumers in 2 to 3 seconds can be a major winners. With this coming, of course, to you, Abhishek, for your thoughts from your learnings on why do you yourself as a consumer and as a marketer would skip ads?
Simple question to reach where I want to reach. See, the thing is, I guess skipping ads has become like a muscle memory now. I see my 3-year-old nephew also skipping ads, though they can't read the word skip ads. They know which part of the screen to tap and to get to their rhyme, right? So I guess most of the points have already been summarized, but I would say just advertising has become either out of context advertising or context advertising. If suppose I want to reach out to YouTube to tune into a nursery rhyme for my kid, and if suppose suddenly I'm interrupted by a Dettol ad maybe, right, then I will immediately skip it because I want to make my kids sleep, right? So that is an out of context advertising. And in the sense, if suppose I have to get attention from any of my target audiences, I need to be in context, right? And now what we are doing is moment marketing is one of the use cases how we are doing it. We're basically piggybacking on any topicality, any content that is trending, and marrying your brand proposition through that. So that because it's in conversation, and so I mean your brand also piggybacks on that conversation and is noticed. And that's where I think most of the brand advertising is moving towards, where earlier it was not possible because of we didn't know enough about the consumer because of the tech was not enough. But now I think people will there's a whole generation growing up skipping ads now, right? We were the hybrid generation. We have seen scarce media as well. We have seen the multiplicity of media as well. But the new generation, they know how to skip ads. They are numb to those ad locations. So I guess the advertising has to evolve as well. Otherwise, most of the ads will be skipped.
Yeah, I think I hear you there, Abhishek, and especially when there are offers like premium subscriptions that one can subscribe to completely opt out of that experience. Definitely, a rolling pin for brands to consider in their marketing mixes. And I think at this we've touched upon, therefore, a very important thing that we would want to unravel, given that skipping ads, therefore, like, all of you said, and Abhishek also said in the end, that it's almost become a reflex. The moment you see an ad, you want to just skip it. Given that that's becoming a phenomena, how ready are we as brand marketers, as agency leaders, that what are those other formats that therefore will be more natural and more like non-intrusive per se, can be conducive to brand growth as well. So what do you think? My next thing that I would want to understand from all of you is that what are the other formats that therefore the brands can leverage? I'll first seek your thoughts, Vanita, on this.
Okay, so on this one, how ready are we? I'm not sure whether we are in a great place yet. I think in India, we've not done too many things, yes, but brands are picking up things, and we will share, all of us have some use cases, I'm sure. But I think broadly, the whole task is to subconsciously be present in the consumer's life. How can we subconsciously get the space and find a niche there? And some interesting examples that I've seen, out of which one that comes to my mind is a good international one on HBO Max channel. So, they use their IPs, which are very popular, like Friends and Game of Thrones, etc. And they made branded stickers. Wow. And they used that for a campaign where it was all about their live streaming service. And they wanted to do this for a week. And so a week where they were giving many more properties or many more things on their service. front, they made it parallelly to giving many more stickers and many more engaging, variety of things to do for the consumer. So I thought that was really cool, and I was reading through some of the stats also that were amazing number of shares, 1.2 million plus and stuff within a week. Was quite heartening to see that, but it's simple yet so so easy, because it's so natural. It is so so easy, and if you see those stickers, they're so sweet and simple. So like a friend's thing with branding of HBO Max, and a friend opening up the heart and saying the Superman, saying that I'm a super friend. So things like that. So I think and I think the TG, which is like the youth, would love things like that, because they like shareability. They like things that's very natural. It's not like an advertisement at all. So I think, yes, there are things, and that's all I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's very, like you put it very beautifully, Vanita, that if there was a way to literally tap into the subconscious by being present in some natural manner, that I think very interesting to note that. Sagar, what are your views? While skipping ad is happening, what are the other formats that you think brands can leverage that are coming up to kind of circumvent that problem?
So I would echo what Vanita said. I think as brands we are learning, I think I would say the pre-2010 or 2014-15 more to say. I think the change that marketing has really seen, and many of us have actually seen both phases of marketing. I would say the only way to be a successful marketer is to keep reinventing yourself. So my first disclaimer would be, I think we are learning. I would also like to believe most of the marketers are learning. And what are some good learnings is what I would say, because I don't think we have found a solution yet on this. And as you said, the fact that people want to pay 700 rupees bucks a month only not to have ads on some of the OTT platforms, right? That tells what is the cost of skipping the ad that in consumer's mind, right? So I think the first thing would be, can you really work flow with the kind of media that you are, especially on social media? Like say, for example, if you are chatting on a messenger platform like a WhatsApp, so can you have your advertisement seamlessly flow into your content? Like say, for example, can you have stuff which say, for if you have to wish someone good morning, can you have stuff wherein you have a branded content or a message which goes which essentially, because good morning content is the single largest inventory on WhatsApp right now, right? So can we have branded content which really goes along with in a cooler way? Second thing, I think most of the services, most of the startups are essentially founded in the US, right? And in China. Obviously, we don't have any access to the ones founded in China. We have access to like all that we use are essentially founded in US. Their sensibility are also very US, right? So can we really build in each of those platforms stuff which is more desi? Right? Say, for example, if I were to say that most of the brands like Tata Tea or Tata Salt, very desi brands, right? How can we use social media to create stuff which becomes shareable and desi? I think that's another way I would say. Third thing, I think, how do you work with the medium? Like say, for example, if you're having this stuff on Instagram, how do you make it worthy of a million likes because of the picture worthy of it? Or if you're putting something on Facebook, how do you make it worthy of people commenting? I think working with the medium is another thing, and I would say we are learning. So and the learning continues.
Great, Sagar. Great points there on leveraging conversations and vernacular conversations. In fact, for a country like India that has diverse cultures and languages, will become a very important factor. I think with this we can. I mean, I'm going to Premjit also. Curious to hear your thoughts on what are the other formats that you think brands can leverage.
Yeah, I think almost everybody would remember the first, I think, big move that happened in terms of moving away from regular advertising is those, I think, 7 BMW films, where BMW took all their annual media budget and just made 7 films made by the best producers in Hollywood, right? Short films, which featured their products, right? And that became a rage. And since then, I think 2 decades since then, innumerable brands have tried that, right? But what were they selling? They were not trying to sell a product. right? They were trying to sell a lifestyle. They were trying to sell something else. And I think we need to be able to figure that out, right? Because people don't get attached to products, they get attached to ideas, right? The whole Apple is not a product, it's an idea, and that's where people go for. And there are many such examples. There are many great brands, one sitting here in the room also, and which is very visible. But overall, I'm saying it's about selling an idea, right? Or making people to like an idea and then engage with it. Because ultimately, if we want to avoid that avoidance, it's about the consumer needs to invite us. The consumer needs to come to us. It has to move from a push to a pull. And for that to happen, I think, how do we become part of the tribe of the consumer? And in that is where the magic lies, right? If we are able to achieve that, they will spend 1 hour with us, right? If we can't do that, they will not do anything. Looking at Sagar, I'm reminded of the Jagore campaign. I don't know, I was not involved, but I saw it as a consumer and as a professional when it first launched with Low, and I remember those days. It changed the whole idea how people looked at advertising in tea category. They were no longer selling tea, right? They were selling something. They were actually not selling, is not the right word to use. They're actually propagating an idea, right? And then the moment that happened, then it's but natural for people to engage with you, right? So while we can talk of formats, and yes, digital today enables those formats to happen. Otherwise, there were ideas, but how do we get the people to participate with us, or how to invite us? And digital enables that, and the thoughts that were shared on the kind of stuff which can be done with maybe WhatsApp or any other format, that's very amenable, very doable. But I think the important point is to be clear, what are we going to talk to the consumer, right? The moment you want, it happens so much, right? All of us have been accosted by MLM people, right? Who are the multi-level marketing schemes who come to you and then they want you to buy the product. And you say, fine, I have spoke to you because you were a friend, but you're trying to sell me anything, please don't come to me again. Right. So I think that part is what we have to crack. The format, I think, with Bobble and various other texts available, the formats are innumerable and possible to do, and wonderful things can be done with the formats. But what is very important is what is the context and what will we talk to the consumer. That's would be my point.
Very, very important point, Premjit, that you've touched upon, that what is the context and what is the idea. And in fact, I really like the way you said we have to think beyond, becoming push to instead of involving the consumers. I think it also ties back to how Sagar was talking about, where the conversations are happening. If a brand can seamlessly flow into an environment where the consumer gets automatically connected to it, that could be something amazing. Abhishek, your views on this?
Sure. So as I said earlier as well, you have to be in context when you're advertising to get the attention from someone. If you're out of context, they're going to avoid you. They're going to skip you because you are an impediment to what they want. So usually how brands are doing these days is one of the chief things they're doing is moment marketing, where they're trying to marry a trend with the brand proposition. But that's a difficult job. You can't marry every other trend with your brand proposition. It usually comes across as a force fit. And it'll look even worse than your regular ads as well. So now, and also one more point is that these days people are, this is the convenience economy time, right? People are short of time. They want to convey emotions, thoughts in the minimum amount of time. Whenever you're chatting as well, these days you're using stickers mostly to convey an emotion. If a brand can, as someone mentioned earlier, that can hijack that, maybe come in there, become a part of a good morning. Or let's see if I want to communicate a particular emotion. If a brand can come in there seamlessly, and that's when you will be used, and that's the most number of impressions you will get. I mean, we keep chasing these CPMs and CPIs, but I guess if suppose you are seamlessly integrated in the conversation that is there, people are using without you forcing them to use it. I guess that's the hack we need to do. We need to be how brand can seamlessly integrate into chats. If we can do that, as a marketer, I've always thought of doing hacking WhatsApp. I mean, sometimes we know all the people are there on WhatsApp, right? And we kept chasing Twitter, Facebook, and Google JDN ads, but we know we never could hack WhatsApp because it was encrypted. But if there is a way we can integrate where we can come in and not in a force fit of a manner, where we can be useful as a emotion which we can express through that, it'll be great. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Abhishek, again, one very interesting insight that you put for the audience, our audience here today, that WhatsApp, while of course it is part of the social media channel, but has been largely untapped by more and more brands. And examples like Good Morning, etc., and such different forms of conversational inventories are literally out there where brands are naturally present and can own that space via the means of visuals like stickers, GIFs, emojis, which the younger audiences are definitely climbing a lot on, takes care of the fact that it's of course seamless and natural. I think all these points were very, very interesting, and thank you so much for sharing these insights. But I would want to go over to Arvind, and because I think, you know, when we were backstage, we were just discussing, this is for audience, that Arvind's already made most of one very important form of marketing that's very popular these days, which is moment marketing. We can see the signature McDonald branding in the room, in the panel. So Arvind, to you, I would really want to understand, like, moment marketing and brands wanting to leverage occasions, even in a digital context, right? People wishing happy Valentine's in WhatsApp messaging as well, digital occasions or topical themes. What is your take on how is this really shaping up? And is there a way that, you know, brands can leverage it in a digital conversations context as well?
Sure. I think moments marketing has grown to be a very important pillar for most brands. So if a brand has to be buzzy, you know, that's a traditional term used for as an objective setting, sometimes wrongly. But what it really means is, how can it be engaging, right? How can my social handles, right, be continuously engaging day in, day out with consumers whose attention is so hard to get nowadays, right? And the panelists have discussed the challenges that brands have with today's young consumers, for example. But naturally, like Abhishek said, in that context, moments marketing becomes very important. So traditionally, moments marketing has about being the occasion, right? Sometimes occasions are, calendarized. Sometimes they just happen. So in that sense, picking up whatever topics are being discussed, so you need tools like social listening, etc., to be on top of those conversations. And of course, some occasions are relevant to you, some aren't. Right? So your speed to market becomes very important. And a quick sense of, what kind of, creative, what kind of communication really engage consumers. So case in point is, for example, Instagram, right, launched its music feature, some time back, about 2 years back, right? And we kind of, did a intakshari on our, Instagram page, right? Play between Instagram and Antakshari. And frankly, we thought of it as a content for maybe half a day or, 3/4 of a day, where we prompted consumers to do an Antakshari. But it went on for days, right? And we had to just scramble and put resources to keep the Antakshari going on, in other words. Right? So you have those opportunities, but you have to keep trying. So, like, some opportunities become much bigger than what it seemed initially, right? And some opportunities don't play out as well, right? While these are, occasions that come up, I'll talk about another occasion. For us, as a brand, drive-thrus are very important. And in India, we have the largest number of drive-thrus in the QSR restaurants. So how do you make a song and dance about it? So we have something called the drive-thru day. Now, absolutely, from a consumer perspective, no one is interested in a drive-thru day, right? How do you make it engaging? And there was this creative idea where, we started talking to the car brands, right? And the car brands talked back to us, right? So we had Ford, we had Maruti, we had Hyundai engaging in banter with us, right? About what a consumer in a Maruti would be eating versus a Hyundai, and so on and so forth. So, 4 or 5 brands managed to have a lot of fun that day for a brief period of time, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with the creative storytelling and the idea behind the engagement. And one has to keep doing it to make sure the relevancy, because advertising is one way, right? When you do this kind of stuff, you really engage with consumers. I think it just complements advertising in that sense. But let me also go to while creative has been a big driver of moments marketing, there is also tools and technologies which you alluded to, Anika, on in moments marketing, right? And when Premjit talked about opt-in, right? In the essence, when consumers give permission to brands to talk to them, right? And let me give you a very boring example. You buy a new iPhone, you go to the notifications tab, and you spend some time. Most people spend some time, which app you will allow to talk to you, right? You turn on notifications, you turn off notifications, right? And you spend some time, and it's worth invested, right? Why? Because you don't want to be inundated with a lot of spam, but there's some stuff that's really useful to you, etc., where you want to be a part of. Or for example, WhatsApp groups. I've seen many people turn off notifications from some groups and on in some groups, right? So in a sense, the new frontier that digital technology gives you is permission-based marketing, right? Which is very tough, right? But that's the new frontier, right? How can we engage with consumers? How can we engage with consumers after the consumers has given the permission to the brand to engage, right? And no longer we might be able to do the kind of creative storytelling or communication that traditionally we do. It's a very different form of storytelling, but that's the nature of the game, right? You kind of adapt to the opportunities available. So while moments marketing traditionally has been those kind of things, I think it's fast evolving, and solutions like conversational marketing really helps you travel that distance as far as moments marketing goes.
So I think Abhishek, you want to add in something there?
Yeah. So I'll just share my experience, because I was leading the Durex team, and during those 3 years I was there. And we also started pretty early on the bandwagon. 2017, I guess, when we started churning out moment marketing creatives, and they got noticed. I mean, if you would have seen some Durex creatives coming out. So, I mean, our learning was the same as Arvind mentioned. Go-to-market is of prime importance. If suppose there is a moment, I remember there was this when a rupee crossed 69 rupees a dollar, and we put out a creative that 69 is the new position, right? Something like that. And it did amazingly well. And because of the nature of the rupee fluctuations, that would stay for like 2 hours maybe, right? We had to churn out the creative in that, get all approvals. I guess the bigger point is not to churn out the creative, but to get approvals of the entire, the breakthrough. And the point was that even the CMO was involved in the same WhatsApp group, and he was also enthusiastic about that, and he gave approvals pretty fast. So that's how, so it's about logistics plus creative. So sometimes logistics part is ignored, but I guess the credit should go to the both sides, the client and agency, so that they come together. If only they can come together, nobody will happen. Otherwise it won't. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the way I take it as while logistics, ideas, creative all come together to leverage a fine moment or an occasion where the brand wants to, kind of own that presence in the minds of consumer. And how you do it via the means of conversations, via all the tools and formats that are available within conversation has become, I think I would want to go back to what Arvind was saying, that, permission-based marketing is in fact quite a conspicuous frontier we're all looking at. And when I think inherently I speak, of course, as a fellow marketer myself, when you're in conversations as an ecosystem, it is more natural to your environment. So I think I agree with all of you there. Vanita, any thoughts on, as we're discussing moment marketing and its relevance in digital conversations, any thoughts from you on this?
Yeah, just a quick one. I think besides logistics, creative and idea, I think what really appeals to me as a consumer and as an agency partner is that when brands own moments and, build brands basis that. So this is not just, it's obviously not limited to now just the digital space, just quickly, on a moment marketing overall broader level, talking about how Cadbury celebrations, of course, even on the digital space, has completely owned, for example, Raksha Bandhan and Rakhi. So you have Rakhi stickers and all that very naturally floating around on the natural environment. But beyond that, I think Tata Salt, we work together, Sagar. So on 15th August, every year over year, we were, doing something with it. So the association of Tata Salt Desh Ka Namak comes across. Saffola, we worked again in Madison on World Heart Day. So I think while World Heart Day could have been taken by tons of brands, but I think since Saffola took the first mover advantage, and similarly Cadbury Celebration has taken the first mover advantage, it's very important to understand that moment marketing is about longevity and in association. So that's another point I want to highlight.
Absolutely. I think, this year we can see when it's Raksha Bandhan, we'll have branded stickers, Cadbury celebration stickers, people wishing each other with that. Could be definitely an important long mile, like you said, longevity in ensuring the perpetuity for the brand recall and resonance. Of course, we've talked at length about how moments and occasions can be tabbed in different tools and capacities, and of course, digital conversations as well. What I would, we have like the biggest of the marketers and the agency leaders today on the panel. So I'm really curious to also understand that, interestingly, word of mouth has emerged as one of the popular channel of influence. And while there are like one personal example that I can relate to, like if I have to buy something, the first thing that I do is put a message on my WhatsApp group with the people I want to really take in a recommendation from, that, okay, I want to try this product. What are your thoughts? So word of mouth, peer influence, and that too in a digital context, like WhatsApp conversation media context is emerging. Now, what are your thoughts on this? I would, of course, start with you, Premjit, on this.
Premjit, you're on mute.
Yeah, word of mouth is a very charming thing, right? But it's something which is the toughest to make happen. It's not only about creating buzz, but are we creating the right buzz, right? Creating buzz by itself is very difficult. Yeah, we see, and I'm sure all of us know so many examples where brands tried to start a thread and nothing happened, right? And you end up with 7 likes on a post for a huge brand, and it seems such an embarrassment. So I'm saying driving buzz, word of mouth is not at all easy. And then it's like letting a bird out of a cage and you can't control it which way the word of mouth goes, right? So it's very critical and important that there is clarity in the mind of the consumer, not in the brain of the brand manager, right? Brand manager's clarity about what his brand is does not matter at all, right? And we often debate whether that exists or not also. Sorry, on the forum I'm saying, but we all know that, right? A lot of things happen, what I personally brand as brand manager delight, but we need to focus on the consumer delight, right? So I'm saying it needs to be very clear in the mind of the consumer, what does really the brand stand for, right? That brand identity and assets which relate to that identity are very important, right? Otherwise it will go out of context, right? So it's very critical for that. I want to talk of a small case of Oreo, where we all know Oreo as a brand. I don't need to explain it, right? And the desirability about the brand is also well known. Everybody knows, and the way they have crafted what it stands for and how to exactly eat it in the wrong way, right? All of that really has created a whole thing around the brand. And therefore, when that brand goes and tries to expand itself, its usage, right? Many brands have that challenge of from a product to an ingredient, and Oreo also wanted to do that. But since it had such strong lineage or such strong understanding or identity in the mind of the consumer that this brand stands for delicious dessert, chocolate, sweet, die for thing to have for, it was so easy for it to extend. And then if you have that kind of a brand asset, then to very simply take it into a campaign where you say, can you create recipes with this? And so share recipe pics and the whole campaign which happened on that, and using emojis which were created. I don't know whether you call it Anika emojis or stickers. I'm not very clear on that, but creating those smaller brand collateral, which derives all from that brand asset. That is where the magic happens. Because if, for example, a similar thing possibly was done by another brand, which was not so deep rooted in that desirable food, then it would have fallen flat, right? But it worked brilliantly. And as I always say, first you need a brilliant message or a brilliant point to talk about. And then if you have got some strong formats, then those two put together can make magic happen. And that's what Oreo recipe did for the brand. And I think talking only of the output part of it. Rather, it created a huge amount of shares, etc. It's a very visual thing, so I can't show it to you here, but it was a delightful thing to see happening. Thanks, Anika.
Great points there, Premjit. I think you've added a precursor to word of mouth, that it's first the brilliance of the the messaging in itself that kind of ties back to how strongly it can amplify and create ripples for a brand. And Oreo, of course, being a brand that has leveraged this space really well to amplify the messaging around positioning Oreo in the recipe, in the food as a category. So, we've been talking a lot about conversations and visuals in conversations. One thing which is, at the very fundamental underlying layer of conversation media formats is the users need to, really express themselves. And I think that's also the reason why millennials and Gen Zs use a lot of visual formats in the first place. And it also ties back to an important, thing that has become a buzzword in marketing, right? As a sphere, digital marketing, personalization. Everyone all the time is talking about personalization, that too in varying capacities. But from the panel that we have today, I, of course, would want to learn and understand it. How, as in your capacity and experiences and learning, how have brands been leveraging personalization in conversations in the digital ecosystem? Coming over to you, Sagar, for your thoughts on this.
So I think personalization clearly is one of the ways to really win consumers and make sure that the skipping doesn't happen, which is the topic of the day really. We did try quite a few things. In fact, on Tata Salt, we had tried one of the things actually a couple of years back. The idea was very simple. Tata Salt is a purer salt. Like if you put Tata Salt in a solution of water, the water looks as it was earlier, right? So if you put any other salt, it becomes milky, right? So now the idea was that if you're putting it on YouTube, why someone going to a YouTube or any other video platform be interested in knowing about salt? So we created around 200 personalized creatives depending upon kind of content that you're watching. Say, for example, if you're watching a food recipe on soup, the first message that will come is that are you putting salt in your soup or your soup is putting in your, are you putting salt in your soup or is the soup or your salt is putting in soup, right? I mean, or say, for example, if you're watching an entertainment content, the message would be, "Kyunki salt bhi kabhi pure tha." So the idea is that every single time when you are watching a certain kind of content, you would get a customized visual and a customized message, which essentially talks to you, right? So you're in a way you are delighted and you know something. You are waiting for something, and we had seen that the overall view-through rate. So typical view-through rate for ads are 25 to 30%. We had some 65-70% view-through rate, and most of the people watching that. In fact, Madison was one of the partners who had worked with us on that campaign. And there are multiple such examples whenever we have tried to personalize and talk to a consumer. I think it helps. It's difficult, especially for mass brand, because when you are talking about some of the FMCG brand, you are talking to a million, multiple number of consumers. Another way to build personalization is to really try and build a cohesive set of consumers. See, I think the way we misunderstand personalization is that personalization is not about talking to every single person. It's not one-to-one. Many times it is about find a coherent set of consumers who think similarly. So if you are able to get that cohort right and you are able to stick to that cohort, even in even the same message, I think your ability to make a difference would be significant. And some of the work that we had done on Tata Sampann as a brand was to build a community of consumers who believe that the classical Indian way of eating is right. Because typically we all want to lose weight and we all want to be our healthiest base, and we move to things like quinoa and kale and ketos, and we realize that they are not sustainable. After a fortnight, you all go back to dal chawal, right? Can a dal chawal and sabji roti make you healthy, right? There is a large set of consumers lying there. And we try to create content which goes to that kind of consumer through DMP, basically data efforts, try to get to that consumer and keep showing out content. I think organically on a Tata NutriCorner we were able to get around 1.5 lakh, 2 lakh people regularly coming. I think the way it would all depend on how you look at personalization. But the whole idea of personalization is that the moment it feels personal to me, my ability to really respond favorably significantly goes up.
Great, great. Sagar, the way you said that personalization is all about, literally getting into their shoes, cohort-based personalization, like you said, identifying cohorts that echo and resonate with similar things, and then designing the creative landscape around it can definitely compelling content that users can actually relate to when it comes to personalization. We're seeing that trend also, when we talk about visuals that are being used or digital conversations, like more and more consumers are shifting to avatars and like having their caricatures and would want to communicate in that style, in that language, and more brands are opting into that space, right? So that's definitely, thanks a lot, Sagar, for sharing your insights there. Vanita, your thoughts on personalization in the conversational context.
So personalization, I can think of two examples on Pidilite right away that we did. Like the first one would be the traditional one where we have most of the functional categories I have an AI bot. So like a waterproofing Dr. Fixit brand, we have an AI bot camp, working on FAQs being resolved, etc. of consumers. But what we recently did on Fevicol was also very interesting, where we personalized the communication on the mobile advertising of Fevicol by language and by the way the person responded to our ad. So conversation marketing is all about eliciting a response by the consumer. So right. This was how this was done was, this Hindi mein bolte hai na 19-20 ka hi farak hai. So do you believe in 19-20 का फर्क matters or not? So that was the whole campaign कि 19-20 का फर्क क्या है आपके हिसाब से matter करता है. And then there was some communication. Then we led the consumer on the mobile to say हाँ or ना on the mic below. So if he said हाँ, there was a communication further to say that आप believe करते हैं इसमें, तो फिर furniture में भी क्यों नहीं? And then you go to that. And if he said ना, then you had a different message, which said that आप इसमें भी नहीं करते तो आप furniture में क्या करेंगे, or something like that. Broadly, I may not get the words right, but leading it both to different ways. And this actually reminded me of a case study which was quite old, of a storytelling also like this. I think it was a award-winning case some years ago, many years ago, where a channel had done something where the consumer could actually interact and say that, what kind of a move will this person take as a character in the episode. And if this is the thing, then they got a completely different story that they could see. And if they said something else, they got a different story that they could see. So that's heights of personalization. Imagine personalizing entertainment like that. So those are some of the examples. And there's another one which comes to my mind, which is more around moment again, but it's personalized. So, we did Book My Show tie-up for Live On. So Live On wants to stand for, 3-second salon-like hair. So whenever they booked a movie, then, dear so-and-so, are you ready for your movie experience? Why don't you, something like that. So experience of a live on, things like that come to my mind. Yeah. So interesting stuff. I think personalization is good fun. Yeah.
Great insights there, Vanita, on personalization, especially like the part where you mentioned about Fevicol and, the importance of being able to communicate in the language. Again, going back to how Sagar was talking about India, a cross-cultural, diverse country with vernacular. Definitely, I think we already have a question from the audience, which we'll take up on the vernacular part towards the end of our session. But quickly coming to you, Abhishek, as well, for your thoughts on the importance of personalization in today's context. And do you think if brands are being able to leverage that, of course, digitally, in conversations, so on?
Yes. So I guess, again, personalization is again one other tool to basically break clutter, to reach out to a particular person and be in context. Imagine if you go abroad and you notice a shop board with a Hindi, maybe could be an Indian restaurant, and with a Hindi lipi there. I mean, you suddenly get excited because it feels like it's talking to you, right? So suddenly, I guess in a similar manner, if suppose a particular communication talks to you, and with tech, it's very much possible these days to come in, tailor make different kind of communications for you when it's targeted to you. And so one example I will recall is, which is offline, what Coca-Cola did was they picked out a particular location in nation and picked out the top 50 first names, right? And they changed the packaging basis that it's for you, right? So they put the first names on the packaging, and imagine, and this could be like in the Indian context, it could be like Neha or Abhishek, which are the most common names, or a Pooja maybe. And if suppose you go to a shop, to a supermarket and you see your name there, suddenly you want to collect that. It becomes a collectible for you, right? And that's how they also tried to, those 50 names would reach out to, let's say, 50,000 people because they share the same names. And it created a lot of flutter as well. Of course, it became a good PR story for them. And of course, it's a new thing that they did and got noticed. So yeah, personalization, and in the tech age when you can tailor make digital ads, which you usually don't skip. If you can tailor make them basis your name or basis your context, I think it will be not skipped then. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there, Abhishek. In fact, all the beautiful examples that we've discussed, I couldn't help but think of one example that I had come across, and it had literally left my eyes popping out. I'm not sure if the panel's aware, but Ralph Lauren is a luxury brand that we all know of, right? They took personalization to a whole next level. That they launched their entire collection on Bitmoji. Bitmoji attracts a lot of young crowd, and I think digital wearables as a for apparel as a category, retail as a category is becoming one-stop shop where wearables amongst caricatures that Gen Zs and millennials are increasingly using can definitely be leveraged. So I think those were some really good insights coming onto the floor. Moving on, like since we've been talking about so much about all that is there in forms of how consumers or brands can leverage and connect closely with consumers using all these formats, whether it's moments, whether it's personalization, whether it's branding in visuals, in stickers and GIFs, and so on and so forth. I think, but one important thing that all of us as marketers are obsessed with is ROI, is measurement, and how does it help? What is the impact? These are the questions we're always answering, not just for ourselves, but to our fellow brand custodians also. So with this, of course, coming to you, Premjeet, for your thoughts on, while of course we as marketers want to have a media that we can really work with, but what do you think are some of the tools that marketers today are deploying to measure the effectiveness of their campaigns? And especially since we're talking of conversation media and digital conversation media here, what are the tools that you think brands, marketers can leverage to arrive at the efficacy of their campaigns? Premjeet, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think measurement is a very critical thing, and like you said, we are obsessed about it. But I would say if somebody is not obsessed about it, then that person is in the wrong place, right? Because we are spending money which is not ours. So it's extremely important that we are clear what that money is bringing to the table, right? All of us are in a chain, and we all need to be accountable to what we are spending. So having said that, I'm saying I'll not talk of overall measurement. Of course, I'll talk of measurement only in the respect of conversations part that we are talking of here, right? The deal is, while conversations have been possibly the oldest media ever, but even today, in terms of us understanding how the mechanics work and how tech is enabling them and what tech really does to them, is something which is not clear, and we still are finding ways to do that, right? In fact, we are finding ways how to stop them by what we call ORM, which we know that conversations gone wrong need to be stopped. So there is online reputation management as a field which also exists, right? But overall, I'm saying it's what is to be noted that there's a huge amount of clutter in these conversations, right? Anytime when I have looked at conversations for brands, what we realize is that time it kind of makes us feel that how small we are, because the conversations are so much larger about the category or the subject that we're talking of. And what a brand can do to is so minuscule, right? And a lot of time brands get attributed to a lot of things. We did this and so much conversations happen. And very often when you deep dive, you find that that was not because of that, but something else. So there's a huge amount of clutter, and then there is a fragmentation, right? So unless we as a brand have got some strategic approach to driving conversations, right? Because driving conversations at the end of it is a very tactical job, right? On the ground, it is very tactical, right? But unless it emanates from a larger strategic objective, those conversations will all mean different things for the brand, right? And unless they all make one point around it, it's going to be fragmented and of no use. And the third is, are they scalable, right? Just buzz ho gaya is not good enough. Kitna buzz hua, and it's scalable in the right place, right audience and all of that, right? So a lot of these things are there. So it's not just about measuring whether we got conversations or not, but really doing a deep dive into what caused those conversations and what did those conversations then cause, right? And as I said, most often, and it will be a surprise if somebody's not already done it, whenever you do any analysis of your media spends with conversations, you try to understand why is it not matching? Why is it not so nicely showing a high correlation? मैंने TVC किया और conversation नहीं हुआ, ये कैसे हो सकता है? But that's how true it is. And therefore, we need to really understand what is causing those conversations, and we need to really put social listening into turbo mode there, right? And it's not only social listening. Social listening will tell you what and when and who's doing the conversations. But there is a whole lot of things in the marketing mix we need to account for. What usually happens is media spends hai thanks to all the media databases, conversations hai because thanks to the social listening, but all other metrics of marketing mix are not available. And therefore, we really don't know what is causing those conversations, right? So a lot of time you have a celebrity in your ad and the conversations are happening because the celebrity did something else somewhere else out of context to your brand, but conversations are picked up by your brand social listening. So I'm saying it's not an established science, but it's a serious job to be done. We do BLS, etc. For example, the Yippee example that we discussed, Anika, on the mood masala thing, the Yippee noodles. There we did a BLS and it showed a 24% rise increase in those who used this conversation formats versus those who did not. It showed a spike. So those immediate measures within a campaign are required, but I think we need to look at measures to look at conversations in a more long-term perspective and a more macro perspective to see whether they're delivering for the brand what the brand wants, right? Looked at only as tactics is not going to be good enough, and they need to be tied up with a proper strategic thought. That's what I will leave you with. On the tools part, there are immense number of tools, and I'm sure all of us have enough research agencies to tell us which those tools are. But this is the thing which we need to keep in mind when we track those conversations. I hope I'm able to make a point.
Absolutely, Premji. The fact that measurement and the efficacy of the measurement, the timeline when you measure and how you measure become very important as a parameter when brands are looking for ROI and literally identifying where exactly, what is the root cause analysis, like you said, what is literally leading on to the ripples, and understanding how those ripples are creating value for brands becomes very important. Coming to you, Vanita, for your thoughts on measurement and ROI with respect to conversations and other platforms that you've seen.
Yes, Anika, so ROI is typically more in terms of, basics of reach, usually in common media terms. And I think the key difference we all know is this is not about awareness, this is about engagement. So I think very basic hygiene factors of shareability, number of shares, percentage shares, usage, things like is it amongst the top used stickers of the pack and of the app, etc. These things are the common things that we are doing, and I think Premjit is right that it's very tactical, and I think currently it is tactical in terms of the way conversation media in the market in India is. It is very tactical, and like I said, very few brands are taking owning moments and trying to do conversation around it. More and more we do that, then we can measure something more long term. I think having a strategy, I would agree, but having it at the beginning and having a measurement parameter is, I think, a very tough one to crack right now. So I think currently on measurement, it is more tactical, and it is the basics of brand lift studies and shareability, etc., etc. I think I would say that, not go only by numbers, I would say. While Premjit said, "Jo nahi believe karta wo," they're foolish probably, but I think I would tend to think on conversation, I would give it a little bit of a leniency, because it is very qualitative and you can't be sure. Like we've all discussed, word of mouth, you can't be sure, right, whether this will attract word of mouth or not. So then it's about experimenting a lot more and then getting it right. It's about learning and experimenting, and of course measuring in tactical ways, of course. But about the long haul measurement, I don't know if we have much to offer currently.
No, I think I take that as a point, Vinita. You've raised the fact that more and more brands therefore need to, get hold of conversation media as a platform to understand the long haul impact and performance for their campaigns. Was there a point, Premjit? I think you were adding in.
No. I was just saying, yeah. So that's the bane of our business, Vanita, that there is a lot of things that we do, and everybody keeps talking of that famous decade, or rather 5-decade-old thing of 50% ad works and 50% doesn't. And that has done very bad for our industry, right? And I think if we do not counter that, even at this stage, right, or at least we do not make attempts to counter at this stage, I think we would not do justice to the industry. So I agree, it's a very new format, but just because it is new, chalta hai, nahi karenge hum. We'll try as much as possible to measure, but that's the only in spirit I'm saying. Of course, I know it's not possible to do.
The best is always there. Yeah. Best practice available, best practice to be discovered. We'd love to be inventors.
In spirit, I would say that, that for brand marketers, continuously looking at innovative ways, like I think Arvind had set the context at the start, that out of the box is what we need to really think about. And since we are discussing ROI measurement, I think the panel discussion would be completely incomplete if we do not discuss the pressing issue today, which is around privacy. There's been a lot of noise, how brands have to become more savvy and conscious about privacy. So coming to you, Arvind, on this, that since privacy concerns are something that brands have become to battle with, how do you think these concerns can be addressed via conversation media, digital as an ecosystem, as a channel?
So and like you said, Anika, that's a pressing issue today, right? And we talked about personalization at length. And when you take the theme of personalization to its natural, destination and push it hard, sooner or later you're going to hit a boundary. And the boundary is all about privacy, right? From a consumer language perspective, the brand is becoming creepy. Right, and there's a lot of chatter already that is people are hearing today, right? Consumers are talking about today, our brands listening to us, etc., and so on and so forth. So that is a matter that needs to be met head on, and especially brands like McDonald's, we can't afford to be in the gray area or leave alone ignore the issue of privacy, right? So it's very, very critical. And there are many privacy guidelines that help us, address the issue. For example, GDPR is pretty much a transparent, guideline. And if you are GDPR compliant, marketers tend to heave a sigh of relief that, we are not using personalization as a lever at the cost of, for example, privacy, right? And that's a very important topic today, pressing topic today. And I think brands have to be very, play safe because it's a brand's credibility at stake. And if you navigate it well, you get personalization, you get better context for your communication, and that what every brand manager keeps striving for, right? Brand love and consumer intimacy, right? One should be clear that there are boundaries one should respect.
Makes sense, Arvind, that the more and more brands are understanding, and there are becoming available transparent mechanisms to understand whether a platform or a channel is obeying by the rules of privacy, GDPR compliance, ISO certifications. Of course, there are a lot of tools, and conversation media, of course, is one channel where this, at least we, publishers operating in this space have been taking care of it. Coming to you, Sagar, on your thoughts around privacy and how platforms like conversation media are able to address those for brands.
I think privacy, as I think Arvind said, very, very important. And it's very important as a duty of being a good corporate citizen. So the general guideline from Tata Group, and is not only TCPL as a company, but overall Tata Group, is not only to be on the right side of the law, but also to be on the right side of the ethics, right? And that's something that we go back. So without saying that every single thing that we do, so privacy laws, and all the GDPR and all the regulations absolutely are abided by. very, very important. Simultaneously, we also look at safety, because finally brand safety, and other than privacy, is another important, very, very important point. And not being seen with digital in kind of platforms or kind of people that you wouldn't want to be seen is equally important. I think both these things are very, very important. And that's a common understanding that we also share with all our agency partners. So whenever even a solution comes to us, I think they would know that if they are pitching to a Tata company, these are the things that essentially needs to be looked at. So yeah, I think more than the laws, I think more from the point of view being good corporate citizens, I would say as corporates, we really need to look at it.
Absolutely. Sagar, agree with you there that, privacy has to be fundamentally woven as a fabric for any channel, because at the end of the day, it has to be a balanced value, both for brands and consumers, the way I see it. Either side not getting, the results out of it. And for consumers, of course, we've been talking a lot about how seamless it needs to be for them to not feel bombarded or feel intruded. Vanita, your thoughts and takeaways on this one, privacy for brands?
Yeah, thanks, Anika. So on privacy, besides data compliance and data breach, etc., I think keeping data assets completely safe and watertight is a big deal today. And I think we've recently heard and read about a case of a leading brand where so much of data was just taken away by hackers. So this hacking piece is like a real nuisance currently. So that is what it is. So because it has data of consumers as well as employees, that is one point I wanted to highlight. The other point, which is a very simple media-centric point, I would say, is the fact of frequency of exposure. So privacy to be sent a message once a day, twice a day, 5 times a day, 8 times a day, over a month, what is it? So sometimes I don't want to name brands, but there's some brands who've been sending messages on the food apps these days. Like a lot of the brands are coming personalized messages, kind of nudges towards ordering, etc. And I've been hearing my daughter's friend circle, it's become a point of conversation. So, okay, is that a rude statement to make? Is that something unnecessary? Why are they doing this? How many times do you get this message? Things like that. And so this could be like another point on privacy, right? Because privacy is also about the way you handle your messaging, not just in terms of yes or no, but how many times can also be a bugging factor for privacy.
Very interesting. I think the way you said, Vanita, if I've understood it correctly, the frequency and the capping of the exposure also becomes very important, that it has to be optimal. You're neither getting too much or too less for you to drive value as a brand. At the same time, it's not an experience that's annoying the consumers at the end of the day. Again, pointing to the fact natural means of reaching to the brands have to therefore become one of an important, I think, part of the mainstream channel that brands need to explore. So this entire discussion on everything that the brands and the brands can do with respect to trying to reach their consumers in a more meaningful manner, in a more natural manner, has been very exciting. I would want to wrap up taking one key advice from each and every one of you that you would want to pass on to your fellow brand marketers and agency leaders of today and tomorrow, that how can they make most of conversation media, of marketing. Coming to you, Premjeet, first for your key advice to the fellow marketers of today and tomorrow. You're on mute, Premjeet.
Sorry, I was always told that it's a good habit to go on mute, but yeah.
Not at the time when you're talking, though.
So the first good point is, when you are trying to do conversations, don't be on mute. That's the big takeaway. But overall, yes. I don't know whether I can put it in one point, but I'll still just try to stick to one point only. What I would think most is because how to do conversations, etc. All I think is very much doable. I always focus in the work which I do on what to do rather than how to do. How to do is the mechanics part of it. I'm sure that deployment will happen, but what to do is important. And therefore, whenever we are talking about conversations, and as Vanita rightly said, right now it is in a very tactical stage. I think brands need to figure out what role conversations play in their overall comms strategy, right? In the overall comms approach, what needs to be driven by conversations and what does not need to be driven by conversations, what part of their brand asset, what part of their imagery, what part of their attitude needs to be driven by conversations. If that brands can get a handle on, then if they then do that conversation, whether they do 6 times a day or once a day and through the year, if they do that consistently, I think the end result will be those conversations will do a lot for the brand. Otherwise, it will be blips that will come, word of mouth that will happen, some buzz that will happen, but at the end, we'll always wonder what that did for the brand. So I would just say that connect conversations to your strategic framework, and that will help. And there are innumerable ways to do that.
Great.
Thanks. That's my point.
Abhishek, your key advice to the fellow marketers.
Yeah, so I guess audience is no longer captive to you. I mean, the old days are gone where you could just run an ad and hope things work. You have to be aware of the context in which you are advertising to your target audience. You need to be aware of the context of your target audience as well. So these two things are important to know. I mean, it should always be at the back of your mind whenever you're designing comms and also choosing media, that you should be in the context of your target audience. Else someone else will do it and you will be left behind. Yeah.
So hyper contextualization, if I have to summarize what Abhishek said, is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, as and when it will happen. I mean, it seems like a far-fetched idea right now, but it'll soon happen then. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that input, Abhishek. Sagar, your views, key takeaway actually for the key advice for the brand marketers that you want to pass on.
I think key advice would be a very big one. I would say simply, you should have an idea which can carry on sustainable idea, because finally, if you don't have a sustainable idea to create conversation, eventually you will fall down. Eventually you will run out of ideas, right? So you have to have a sustainable idea. Second thing, the role of your brand has to be very seamlessly integrated, because later on you will see a lot of conversation, it will not benefit you. So first, sustainable idea. Second thing, integration of your brand to be extremely seamlessly integrated and also without really interrupting with the overall content. That's the second point. And third is consistency. You have to be at it, because it is not going to give a result in you do something for a week, it will give you a result. So I would say sustainable idea, integration, and the third thing I would say is consistency. These three things, if you do, I'm sure the conversational media or any it will give you rich benefits.
Great, Sagar. Summarizing your points, sustainability of ideas, seamless integration, and consistency is absolutely important for marketers of today and tomorrow. Arvind, your key advice to fellow marketers, with all the experience that you have, they look upon to you.
So I would say three things, Anika. One is relevance. It's a traditional marketing context, but the boundaries always have to be pushed. And especially the digital space gives so much of opportunities to become more relevant with consumers, right? Relevant both from a context perspective, which the panelists have talked about, and also for relevant from a brand perspective. So I would say first is relevance. And then second, I would say engagement. Engagement needs a certain conversational storytelling, right? So the way you craft your communication has to spark conversations, right? And then it should be a very seamless flow, or rather how the brand can weave into conversations the consumers are already having. So either way, engagement needs a certain kind of storytelling that traditional storytelling sometimes lack. The third is experimentation. We're talking about newer spaces. Conversational marketing is a very new space, which means marketeers need to constantly experiment, do small scale pilots, scale it up if the pilots are good. Now in this whole context of experimentation, pilots and scale up, measurement becomes very difficult, very important, right? Difficult and important. But you have to figure it out. Otherwise you will not know what to scale it up, what to sustain, what was an interesting pilot, but I will not do it again. But whatever the spirit of experimentation has to be there, because this whole space throws up new opportunities for marketeers, and brands that make it work, will thrive.
Absolutely. So I think, Arvind, relevance being woven into conversations, driving engagements, and the spirit of experimentation is your key advice to all our participants who are listening us out there, marketers and agency leaders. Final words, from you, Vanita, on the key advice to the marketers.
So I've tried to spinning down thoughts, and I've tried to make an acronym to say that when can success be a surety? So the acronym is SURE, SURE. So S stands for subconscious yet scalable. U stands for unique and clutter breaking. R stands for relevant and serving consumer purpose. And E stands for engage, not interrupt.
Wow,
That's
amazing.
the SURE acronym.
Your acronym literally summed up all the points.
Yeah, I tried
that
to.
will also put together. That was beautiful, Vanita. Thank you so much. I think SURE as an acronym now will become an industry term that people would remember. At least I would personally remember this every time I'm at a problem that I'm solving for when it comes to marketing. But this was really nice having you all while we are moving towards the closure of our panel discussion today. I have something else as well where I would need all of you to stay with me for some more time before we open the Q&A. So as promised to our participants and audiences who are listening to us at the panel and taken out their valuable time today, we plan to unveil something exciting. I'll just share my screen, and I hope maybe the panelists can confirm, Vanita, Premjeet, if my screen is up.
Yes, it's up. Yeah.
Okay, to the audiences also there, we are unveiling what we call, we've spent the entire panel talking about an exciting new category, not new per se, but an emerging and powerful category, the C dimension of brand marketing, which is conversations. You've heard the experts talk about it, their takes, their point of view. I'm sure there's a lot of insights that you're going to go back with. While, of course, this is an ebook that we are going to share offline with everyone to get a more detailed idea into what this is about. But I actually want to show something very specific around how we've been talking about conversation media as a channel and its potential for brands in a study concluded by Nielsen alongside Bobble that in fact, yes, today 94% of consumers are using chat apps. And while all the other points I think are very intuitive and relatable, that there is an increase in the time being spent, or the fact that visual formats like sticker, GIFs, and emojis, we talked about personalization, relevance, and doing what consumers like, that yes, they do like to talk about in these formats. But what has been an absolutely exciting insight from this research has been that literally 3 in 4 people said that they have a preference to share a branded sticker vis-a-vis a non-branded content when they are talking in conversations. So that is a space up for grabs, literally, as I say, for brands to leverage the natural presence in conversations. We, of course, I'm also looking, in the interest of time, I would have wanted to share this in more details, but we'd be circulating a version of our ebook offline with all of you. I think with this, I will just thank the panel for your really good takes and insights, and of course, taking out valuable time. Before we go away, I'll have IMAI folks, if they're there on the panel. I think we already have some questions from the audiences that we can take up now.
Yes, thank you, Anika. We do have certain questions which have been there. The questions, I'll just put it out across to the panel. The first question is about, does the skip behavior happen because of bad ad targeting, very high frequency, or is it the bad creative?
I think I'll open it to the panel. Anyone who wants to take that?
We've answered that, right? We've just actually, it's a mix of everything. We've talked about ad targeting being an issue in the first very question that you talked to us about. I spoke about frequency. We also spoke about relevance and bad creatives or good creatives. I think it's all
combination of everything is why people skip ads. Any other questions, Manvi, that you have?
I would just like to also add that refusal of the marketer and the media guys to learn from it. I'll give a live example. I keep getting this ad from one of this Rummy platforms. They're live running it. I have skipped it every single time, but I still keep getting it. I think if they had a strong machine learning, they would have understood that this guy is not interested, right? A, I think the targeting is wrong. B is that if the targeting, even if you're right, the fact that someone is keeping yours, serving it again and again, I think either it is lack of application or just sheer laziness. I think it's combination. So
I agree with you, Sagar. I keep getting ads, or rather, I certainly remember messages on phone of have you problem of loss of hair. So I don't know where the targeting list happened.
no, I totally get. Yes, I think there is a need by both the marketers as well as the agencies and the media houses to really look at this.
All right.
No,
Yes. So the other question we have is, in your opinion, will social audio platform ads will replace audio OTT ads? If yes, then how are we very close to this?
I think the
yeah, okay, sure.
no, so if anybody else wants to go,
No, I think Premjit, you'd already started. Maybe Arvind can also pitch in later.
Yeah, I was just saying that. In fact, I was going through the questions, and Raheem has also put up a question, a very long question, Raheem. But what I can say is that the answer lies there. That I don't think OTT is going to go ad free for long, right? It's at least as people see in the India ecosystem, it's going to be ad supported. So I don't think, anyways, ad are going away from OTT. Now, whether even if that happens, whether it's the voice platforms will pick it up, it's I think it's a very evolving ecosystem right now. So, and it's not just these two options. There are 100 options of advertising. So I think it will all settle down as the formats evolve, I think. Yeah, Arvind, please.
Yeah, so just pitching in there, I think subscription is a long way to go in India, unlike in some other markets. So I don't think we are going to see an ad-free OTT space very soon, if anything. And I think it's all, when these questions come, I think it's a question of and not or, right? So end of the day, consumers have that much time, and consumer is using a new platform, right? So ad dollars will seek that new platform and see if it works, doesn't work, how sustainable it is, and so on and so forth. So there's ad dollars will seek all these platforms. So it's a question of and. I think we are far from one replacing the other.
And I think, Arvind, just to add, more and more, the whole industry is moving to buying the audience and not the platform, right? So, then if the person happens to be on OTT, we'll talk to him on OTT. If he comes on some other platform, we'll talk to him there. It's about just buying the audience rather than the platform.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. So we have this one last question for the day, and it's in addition to the subscription point we just discussed. So the question is that while not every consumer will be able to afford content subscriptions, it seems inevitable that in the near future, maybe even 5 years, a huge majority of the higher income consumer segment will be premium ad-free subscribers. Specifically for entertainment sectors like YouTube, Netflix, Prime, Spotify, Apple Music, and even new subscriptions like ET Prime and so on. In such a scenario, product placements become very critical. So can a big branding premium segment sustain purely on product placements in the near future, or how will it affect the planning and the tracking functions in agencies?
Anyone wants to go? I think I echo with the person who's raised the question, because I am a subscriber of Spotify Premium. I have only 10 minutes on my commute to travel. I don't want to listen to ads. I want to listen to music. So I echo the same sentiment, but I pass on the question to the panel.
So if I may, since nobody else is speaking, I think in a way, Arvind, you already replied to it earlier. It's not about ye hoga ke wo hoga, but it's and. So first is that it will not be just one platform. It will happen. Second thing is and Raheem, it's a evolving ecosystem, right? And the more we all feel great that we are premium subscribers and we are paying and doing that. But I think in every interaction that we do, we are leaving behind footprints, our digital footprints, and we are parting information when we set our options, when we set our preferences, the way we interact with them. So I think we're opening many more doors for advertisers to engage with us and reach us. It may not be the conventional, straightforward ad spot, but I think it's the way. Those, so the point I'm saying is those going behind these paywalls feel that they are safe, but they are not, right? They are actually, I think, giving off more than those people who are not behind paywalls. What those people who are subscribing to the other platforms which are not, which are ad based and therefore are not asking for anything else. They're only telling about their attention to ad, but I think the others will have to give a lot more also. So it's an evolving ecosystem. It's a question of privacy. It's a question of personalization. It's a question of seamless content consumption. So all those three balances will form, but consumers will also need brand communication. See, let's not end up with the idea that the brand communication is a problem in life, right? It's a necessity. We need to come to know about brands, services, options, products, etc. And I think that balance will be formed. But yes, the shape of that will be very different in the future.
I love the way you put it, Premji. Thank you. Very well said. And I think I echo the same sentiment. And we will evolve a system. I wish we knew what that would be today, but we've evolved so much in COVID. No one knew the way we are living today. Haven't we evolved, all of us? So I think the answer is not known, but it's evolving.
Just to add one
happen in uncertainties. Yeah, Abhishek, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add that, as they mentioned, the biggest OTT platform in India is a hybrid model, which is like a subscription plus ad revenue model. And it's not that once you have subscribed to a channel, you can't unsubscribe. I've seen a lot of people, and these OTT channels are facing the problem of retention, because if suppose a show is launched in a particular month, people subscribe to that show, that particular month, and when the show, they have seen it, the very next month they unsubscribe from it. So it's not that the behavior completely changes. It's just that it's seasonal, right? You will consume a particular OTT channel in the particular period when your favorite show is on air. Otherwise, then you'll move back to the ad-supported model. So yeah, it's difficult. It's keeps on changing, and newer formats will be coming. Yeah.
All right, then. I think all the questions are answered. The discussion was very insightful, and I'm sure the audience completely agrees to that. Thank you once again for all of you to join in. On behalf of IMI, I would like to thank our moderator, Ms. Anika Tanwar, our esteemed set of panelists, and the audience for taking out us time to join us today. I would also like to thank the Bobble AI team to have the faith in us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all from us. Thank you, and please stay safe.
Thank you so much on behalf of
Thank you.
AI. Really thankful to the entire panel for taking out their valuable time for this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone, take care. Stay safe.
Take care. Bye-bye.